Around 1800 BC, the ancient Near East suffered a regional system failure. A crushing drought halted the rains, killed the crops, and pushed the local populations toward the brink of collapse. For the nomadic groups of this era, survival meant one thing: migration. The standard protocol was to flee south to Egypt, where the Nile provided a reliable water source that was largely immune to regional rainfall fluctuations. Isaac was instructed to bypass Egypt and the safety of the Nile. Instead, he was told to remain in Gerar, a Philistine territory. This was a direct order to hold position in a high-risk, resource-depleted zone, rather than seeking refuge in a stable state. This strategy was backed by a long-term guarantee. If he remained in the drought, his descendants would multiply until they were as numerous as the stars, eventually controlling all the surrounding territories. By staying, Isaac placed himself in a highly volatile position. He was operating outside the safety of established geopolitical patterns, making his camp a prime target for any desperate group looking for supplies. Isaac entered Gerar as an autonomous operator, managing a vast mobile economy of flocks and herds. He wasn't a transient refugee. He was an outside power embedding a large, resource-heavy operation into a failing ecosystem. Driven by survival instinct, Isaac introduced a compromise into his camp's security. Fearing that the locals would kill him to take his wife, Rebecca, he told everyone in the region that she was actually his sister. The deception failed when King Abimelech saw Isaac and Rebecca together through a palace window and recognized their true relationship. Abimelech confronted Isaac, realizing that if any of his people had acted on the lie, it would have created a diplomatic catastrophe between the Philistines and Isaac's camp. Abimelech immediately issued a decree to stabilize the situation. He announced that anyone who touched Isaac or Rebecca would be put to death, granting them official state protection. This decree solved the problem of immediate physical safety. However, surviving a prolonged famine required more than legal protection. It required a way to generate resources in a land viewing Isaac as a threat. While the rest of the region struggled, Isaac pivoted to large-scale agriculture. His crops produced a 100-fold yield, the output compared to the seed planted. This sparked a compounding growth cycle, accumulating massive flocks and a huge workforce. The Philistines watched this rapid concentration of wealth with growing fear. They saw a single outsider gaining a monopoly on the region's most vital resources during a time of extreme scarcity. To stop him, the locals began a campaign of infrastructure sabotage. They filled the legacy water wells with dirt, rendering the irrigation system useless. The situation became so tense that King Abimelech ordered Isaac to leave. He explicitly stated that Isaac had become much more powerful than the Philistine state itself. This sabotage left Isaac with a binary choice. He could stay and fight a violent war for the wells, or withdraw and find a new way to operate. Isaac chose a tactical retreat. He moved his entire operation into the valley of Gerar, refusing to escalate the conflict into an armed war. This map traces his terraforming strategy, modifying a landscape for resource needs. They dug a well at Esek, meaning contention. Locals claimed it. Avoiding war, Isaac moved to Sitna. Hostility repeated. He conceded the infrastructure, retreating deeper into the wilderness. He finally dug a third well at a place he named Rehoboth, meaning room. At this distance, the local opposition faded. He had successfully expanded his resource grid to a point where he had enough space to flourish without local interference. Isaac then moved to Beersheba. There, the divine promise was reaffirmed, and his servants established a final, permanent water source. Isaac defeated the sabotage by building faster than his enemies could destroy. He absorbed the loss of individual wells to ensure the survival of the entire system. Isaac's self-sustaining resource grid created a new balance of power in the region. He had proven that he could provide for himself indefinitely, regardless of Philistine cooperation. King Abimelech recognized that he could no longer contain Isaac's growth. He traveled from Gerar to Isaac's camp, bringing his top military advisor and his personal friends to initiate a meeting. The Philistines proposed a formal non-aggression pact. They admitted that Isaac was clearly blessed, and that it was in their best interest to maintain a peaceful alliance with his expanding empire. Despite this external peace, the story ends with a note of internal friction. Isaac's son Esau married two local Hittite women against his parents' wishes, creating a grief of mind that lingered even after the resource wars had ended. Long-term security in Gerar was established by unyielding infrastructural resilience, rather than the outcome of a zero-sum conflict. By focusing on his ability to rebuild, Isaac forced his enemies to become his allies.